I'm here today with Louis Upkins, entrepreneur and author, who's the author of a book, Treat Me Like a Customer. And before we get into the book, Louis, my friend Louis here has a fascinating story. And before we just get into some of the concepts, tell me a little bit about you and your story.
Oh, wow. You said it. Author, entrepreneur. Been an entrepreneur primarily most of my life. I've owned a branding company for the last 27 years, primarily focusing on branding for all professional sports, entertainment, major ministries, and Fortune 500 companies. Author was not a part of that business plan, but over the last couple years has become a part of my world as well. So,
And who, if you look back at your life, who are some of the people that have influenced you along the way in terms of your thinking, either people or books or something that inspired you?
I'd say there are a lot of people that have inspired me in different ways. When you mention people, there's a variety. I mean, Desmond Tutu has really been inspirational to me personally. One book in particular that spoke to me, and that's No Future Without Forgiveness. And that really served as a template for a lot of my thinking through both professionally and personally. The Bible obviously is an inspiration for me personally. But when I think about people, I think about people like Nelson Mandela has been an inspiration. I think about people like, you'll love this one, but remember the Fonz?
Yeah,
Like Henry
Nelson
Winkler?
Mandela and the Fonz.
No, but you got to understand you have to understand the story. So the Fonz was he was this cool guy on television, right? But in person, when I met him, he was one of the most humble people that I've ever met in the entertainment space, which was a great contradiction to what I thought he was going to be like. And so what I learned from him in that one short segment was humility and leadership takes you a long way. And he, ironically, out of all the entertainers, all the A-list people that I've met, has been one of the people that stuck the strongest in my heart.
Henry Winkler. So you have met your share
I've met them all.
of many celebrities, and I'm sure you've learned from all of them, either what to do or what not to do.
Absolutely.
But you've written this book, Treat Me Like a Customer, and it's eye-opening. Its title may be somewhat jarring, or implying, really, we treat our family worse than our customers, or what are we saying? What led you to this story and to outline your principles of bringing business success into the family? What brought that about?
You talked about kind of my world of business, and my world of business combined with entertainment and ministry and big business and world leaders and all this stuff. Leadership is one of the common threads to all of them. And what I found in a lot of my travel was highly successful people at every level were making it on the job, but failing at home. And I just thought, well, how can that be? How can you lead a troop of 30,000 employees or 300 employees and can't lead 2 people or 1 person or 5 people? And then I thought, okay, well, if I drill this down to a 6th grade level, what are the practical things that we do daily to service our customers that we could transfer home to service our families and service our friends and our spouse, etc. And that really was a premise, was these are things that we're doing every day. So how do we value our customers? How do we communicate? We give them our direct attention. Our cell phones are turned off, and we're not checking Facebook and all of these different things. And so how do we do that 8 hours a day, but then get home and we can't do that anymore? And so that was really the reason behind it, is just showing us in a really practical way, guys, we do it every day. Girls, we do it every day. And we have to value our families the same way we value those that write us checks.
We talk about the gravitational pull of success at one point. And have you seen more, those who are more successful have more problems as they rise up in leadership positions, or is that an equal?
Yeah, I would say that there are more distractions. I think that you get lost as a leader. You potentially could get lost as a leader because of the higher you go, because of the isolation. I think that, as a leader, you tend to have to feed off reality. And so the perception is that you're at the top, you've got it all together, and inside oftentimes we're bleeding. There's internal bleeding, and so you have to find balance and find those outlets where you can be honest with a peer, and you can be open to balance and reality checks, because I think as a leader and a powerful leader, you often get kind of covered up with things.
Well, you in this book, you may think, oh, here's the concept, treat me like a customer, I got it. And then you're reading it and you give some tough assignments. It's not an easy book. I mean, you can read it quickly, but if you really want to apply it, you give some tough assignments. I remember one of them where you said, write a letter to your kids as if it was a letter they were going to find in, after your death. And you discussed doing that and what that was like. It's you didn't shy away from giving people some of the tough, hard assignments.
And that was a very tough one for me personally, because here's the reality. We all expect to someday hope that someone would say something great about us, and that we were a great father, great community leader, great business leader, etc. But the only way that's going to happen is that you have to do the work. So by giving the time to do the work, giving the time to be present with your kids, giving the time to be present with your spouse or friends, etc., and really valuing them while you have the opportunity to do that, versus, I wish I had. Mm-hmm. Oh, I wish I had. And that is tragic to me. Mm-hmm. And so it's really just taking a snapshot and saying, okay, if the clock stopped today, where would I stand? Mm-hmm. And really evaluating that.
Well, since you've written the book and you've been speaking about it in various forums to a lot of people, I'm sure you've had a lot of stories of people who are starting to apply it in their lives. Is there one that stands out for you or something?
There's lots, but there's one in particular that stands out, and it came from a major CEO who had 20,000 employees. I've never met him, still haven't met him. But this gentleman was going through a divorce and had decided after 26 years that it wasn't worth it. He had small children. And a friend of his at the final hour just said, man, would you please just let me introduce you to somebody that maybe will help you. This is a mutual friend of ours. So he calls me and he says, Louis, would you talk to this guy? He's about to jump off the cliff with his family. And I really hope that you can talk some reasoning into him. So I get him on the phone, and he's a very powerful guy. They're a multi-billion-dollar company, and so I'm talking to him, and he begins for about 45 minutes about all the reasons that he has no desire to stay in his marriage, and he just goes down this list of things, very analytical, and he's thought it through, and he's been through 2 counselors, and he's already bought another house, and he's already started his new world. And so I listened to him for about 30, 35, 40 minutes, and I said, I've not heard one thing yet that really releases you from being a father and a parent and a husband. I said, but I have one question for you. And he was very this was not a pleasant call. I'm not Dr. Phil, so he didn't really want to have this call anyway. So
how's that working for you?
Yeah. And so I said, but before we hang up, I said, I've been on your website while you were talking. I said, it's clear to me that you're not a quitter. I said, you have a company of 20,000 plus employees. I said, you're an industry leader. I said, I just have one question for you. And he said, what's that? I said, if your largest customer came in today and decided to fire you, what would you do? And he got really quiet, and then he got really angry. And he said, well, it wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen. And I said, why? And he went down this list of all the things he would do to avoid that happening. And I said, really? I said, then do me a favor. I said, put your wife's face and replace that logo of that company and fight for her like you'd fight for that company business.
Wow, powerful.
And he said a lot of choice words, to me. And he slams the phone down in my face. And he says, you're giving me something to think about, and I'm going to go think about it. Go! Hangs up the phone. And so about 5 days later, you get a call back from him. He said, I've decided not to divorce my wife. He said, I really thought about what you said, and I thought about the process. He said, I'm angry because I've spent so much money with counselors who never gave me a thing to think about. He said, but you've set this in a very practical way for me to think about it, and I wouldn't lose my customer, and I would fight for my customer, and I'm going to fight for my family. And so that was very powerful for me.
That's
personally,
fantastic.
just to see it come full circle, you know.
That one story is worth the effort of this book.
Yeah.
Really.
And we've seen countless of those. I mean,
Sure
it's,
have.
you know, countless of those types of stories where, you know, on the female side as well, you know, where you're seeing those that are multitasking and they've got a billion things going on. And, but it's been kind of an eye-opener for them as well, where they're saying, hey, I need to slow it down and really value my children and value my spouse and take some time to love them. So.
Well, I have one last $64,000 question. You can answer this.
64? Do I get the
Maybe more.
64,000 or do you get it?
I think I do. It
Okay.
depends on if you answer it right.
Okay.
I'm really looking into success, and you've seen so many successful people in entertainment, in all walks of life, and CEOs, careers that you've touched. How do you define success? What do you look at? What makes you say this person is successful?
You know, I would say success for me, or how do I define success?
Either way.
I would say, I'll answer that in two ways. I'll answer it how I see success through others, and then how I see success for myself. But how I define success for others is when I look at the fruit of their life in other people, not so much what bucket they filled up for themselves. And so when I can look at a leader and see his fingerprint across the globe in a healthy way on young leaders, old leaders, rich, poor, etc., then that really speaks success for me. And those things are good, valuable things, not just I was successful in this business, but they're, you know, he's successful as a father, he's successful as a husband, successful as a community leader, successful as a business leader, etc. For me, I think success will be defined by how I love my family. I mean, for me, that's it. I want to be the best father, I want to be the best husband. And if I do those two things well, then I would say that I've been successful.
And there you have it. Success right from the author of Treat Me Like a Customer. And fantastic book, a lot to think about in it. And I hope a lot of more people take the lessons from it. I know every one of us that reads it, there are a few places that you just pause and think, wow, I have to think about this a little bit differently. So thank you for sharing this with us today.
Thank you.